I have a 17-year-old son. Unfortunately, he had Tommy John surgery a little over 6 months ago. He's back to throwing. Looks great. Biggest question is, how do you build strength/velo once he's finished with the program? The doctors have told him to stay away from plyo balls. He and I are just trying to do as much research as possible to find healthy ways to build back to where he was. Any advice that you could give me would be much appreciated. I really enjoy your content. Micah, thank you for the kind words on my end. And I will turn this over to Dr. Josh Heenan to answer that question.
When we're looking at this, first we want to look at, see what their formula metrics are. And I say that not as a canned response, but because it gives us a really good baseline of where their needs are, right? So if he's 50 pounds undersized for his height, okay, then like, let's fill that bucket, right? Because that's going to immediately give us a velo. And with our, our internal data, we see for every 10 pounds of mass gained, about 2 to 4 miles an hour. So there's an automatic win. You're looking at your strength deficits, so lunge, deadlift, chin-up stuff, real basic kind of just overview, figure out relatively which ones are lower that need to be brought up to hit your formula baselines. And then looking at your throwing stuff. When we look at throwing programs, we look at them very individualized. So even if a doctor has a protocol, like we will talk to the doctor and figure out like, hey, this person's a big leaguer, this person's a little leaguer. How do we have to modify this program? Because like most programs are pretty canned and they're not looking at mechanics, they're not looking at strength deficits, movement deficits, looking at their timelines, all those things. Building out that individual program is really important, especially when most programs will cut people off either at 120 feet and say, hey, if you can do 40 throws at 120 feet or 60 throws at 120 feet, depending on the programming, or if, hey, once you get 40 throws on the mound, 20 of those being off speed or 20 of them breaking pitches, 20 being fastball, then like you're good to go. I like to start to fill in the buckets of making sure first the mechanics are cleaned up, more similar to a lot of the stuff that you and I do, overlapping. We're looking at why are they moving a certain way, how do they feel, what feels more authentic for them, how do they get more athletic, and then I like to add in well-intended throwing volume that is snuck into their program. You and I are talking about someone post Tommy John today, right, and they're only throwing 3 times a week because they're really monitoring recovery in between those throwing sessions, make sure there's no hiccups. But after that 12-week phase, it's kind of a free-for-all. Maybe adding a little bit more long toss in some days, maybe adding some more high-intent stuff. Plyo balls, you can sift through the research. There's plenty of research that says plyo balls are dangerous. There's also plenty of other research that said there's no impact. I think it really depends on the athlete and the individual. If you're 50 pounds underweight, I don't see a reason that you should be grabbing a 12-ounce ball and throwing, but that doesn't preclude you from throwing a football. So like, we have to look at that individually and then kind of fill the gap and see what you actually need.